Let's make another SVG file. Hi, and welcome back to my craft room. My name is Kelsey. I also call myself Dinosaur Mama. And today we're doing another Inkscape tutorial, and we are going to make an ugly sweater SVG. So I'm gonna walk you step by step on how to create an SVG file on your own. And I'm also going to show you along the way how that SVG file looks in Cricut Design Space. If you can use Cricut Design Space, you can use Inkscape, I promise you. So if you're ready, let's jump right into it. So here we have the final of my SVG file that is free for this week. So this is one of many that I have worked with other designers to bring you these ugly Christmas sweater SVG files. So I'm gonna walk you through, we're not gonna make this one exactly, we can make something a little bit different. I'm gonna walk you through because this is such a great file to start with to learn how to make your own SVG files because we are only using one shape. And then I'm going to show you how to like group them so that you have different groups. And I'll show you actually how that looks when you bring it over to Cricut Design Space. So let's go ahead and open a new page. And this is how mine looks when I open it. You can zoom in and out by pinching. And if you didn't see my last video, everything on this white rectangle is what's going to show up in your preview if you have a Mac, like as the icon, or when you are clicked on it, like looking at your files. So just keep that in mind. The rest will show up if you bring it into Design Space. So if you had like a square over here, that square will show up in Cricut, but it just won't be in the preview. So like I mentioned, we are going to be working with only the square. And I'm just going to fix this because your square, if this is your first time doing it, should be perfect when it comes to the corners. It shouldn't be rounded. But if you ever want to round, if you're clicked in under nodes on the side here, you can round your corners to be like a squoval. Now I want a perfect square. So on my Mac, I'm going to hold Control and I'm going to drag it out. That's how we're going to get our perfect square. And since it's a Christmas sweater, we'll make it green. But I want to work where these are in nodes and not having this round here. So I'm going to go up to Path. And I'm going to go Object to Path, and that's going to change it. So if I go back into that node on the side, node tool, you'll see the 4 points now. So I'm going to go back into the Select, which is right here, Selector tool. And I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. Your size is going to be up here in the top. Right now I have it in millimeters. I tend to work in inches, so I'm just going to make it a 1/2 inch. And just like in Cricut, if you have it locked, it's going to do both sides. If I unlocked it, just like in Cricut, one side would be changed. So let's go ahead and we're going to build out our checker. I don't know why in my head that's how a ugly Christmas sweater looks. So I'm going to duplicate. You can right click and duplicate and then it'll go right on top of each other. So that's not like in Cricut Design Space. Or on a Mac, you can hit Command D and then you can duplicate that way. Now I want to have a perfect checker. So I'm going to go up to this corner right here and it says snapping and I'm going to toggle that on. So I have my snapping available, and now when I duplicate, right, so I have this one, it's going to let me snap to different points. So I can zoom in, and I know that these are equidistant from each other. Now what I like to do is I like to grab both, and I'm just clicking and highlighting over. So clicking and dragging, clicking, holding, and dragging, and I'm going to duplicate again. Remember, you can right click, or you can do Command D. And I'm just going to make my checker. So again, highlighting over everything, Command D. And then I'm letting that snapping go all the way over. And now we have this nice check here. Now, if I were to go and move this over to Cricut, each one of these squares is going to be an individual square. So it's not going to be grouped together. It would cut each one individually. And because they're not attached anyway, it would actually nest them together. I can actually show you this because I feel like that's the easiest way to do it, is to show you what it would look like in Cricut. So let's go ahead and save this and let's go jump over into Cricut Design Space. Okay, and here is that image that we made. I'm hitting continue and upload. And if I look here, it's all dropped down. So let's hit make. And it does not stay in that pattern. We have to basically attach them like we would in Cricut. So let's jump back into Inkscape and we are going to highlight over everything. Again, I'm clicking and dragging over and we're going to go up to Path and we are going to Union. Union is like weld. So that is something to keep in mind when you are doing everything. Union is weld. So here it is. And now if I were to save this again, go back to Cricut, upload it, the exact same image again. Okay, so you have your first one. You see there's no drop down, nothing is grouped. It cuts the way that we want it to. So here's our, it's so hard to see on here, but here's our original, and here are all those individual squares. So now if you want to fill in those holes that I had, right, and do what I did on the first one, you don't need to redo that whole step. You can simply duplicate again. I'm going to drag it out so you can see it. Let's change that color. And so you could do it like this, but then we have this gap here and this gap here. I would simply just flip the object and move it over. And now we fill in all those holes. We didn't have to redo anything, and we know everything looks great. Now from here, you can duplicate again and drag it down so you have the same one. And it's up to you. If you want to flip it this way so that it like mirrors each other, you can do that as well. And if you want, you can also, if you don't want to attach these, let's say, so you don't have this big gap in the middle, you can always group them. So if I go here, right, I have the green clicked on right here. So I'm going to go my select. I'm just going to make sure. I can go down here to the green as well. And if I right click, you can hit group. And that's just like group in Cricut Design Space. So now again, let's look at how it looks with the one that's grouped and the one that's not grouped. Okay, so here the whole thing is grouped. I'm going to ungroup it. Now here's the one that is grouped. You'll see the two greens are together. And here are the two reds. They are not grouped. So you can group just like you do in Cricut. You can group by color. You can group multiple colors. They're not going to change the color. So it's very, very similar. So now I have this spread out. If you want to ungroup anything, you can. Okay. And I just want to make sure everything is even. So I'm highlighting over everything. And then for that, you're going to go to Object, Align, Distribute. It's going to pop off this side panel. And then I'm going to go to here and I'm just going to center it. And that will be perfectly even. So now I downloaded a font to help us make this block structure, and I got it on Creative Fabrica. And I will have this linked below. It's called Retro Pixel Alphabet Digital 8-Bit Game. So it's perfect for these ugly Christmas sweaters. It looks like that kind of print. And I will have this for you to download if you want this specific font, if you're using a font. And I installed that into my computer or onto my computer to use. So now we can add in our text, right? And we can go ho, ho, ho. And to change your text, you would go up here. I have it obviously on the right one, but you would change your text here. And now you can change your sizing. Okay. Okay, and we can also align these, right? There we go. Now I want to show you if I were to send this over without doing anything, how it would look. So let's save it again. Delete our ones here. And you'll see there is no text. So it did not change it into a path, so it didn't work. And I'm going to go back, I'm going to show you. In Inkscape, it is saved. So if it wasn't saved, I have a little star up here. So I'll show you, for example. There's a star now up here. If it weren't saved, it would not have that shown. So you have to convert your text in Inkscape to a path. So we're going to go up here to path and go object to path. And now it is a path. So now if I double click on it, it has all of those nodes. So I can go back into our regular mode. Let's save again. You see that saved. Go back into Cricut. There it is. Let's open it. And now our text is in there. So you do have to make sure you're saving your text as a path. So there we go. And everything is grouped there. Okay. And we're just, now we have our words, right? So that's fantastic. Back into Inkscape. I still feel like this is not the same size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And you can also go up here and look at your size. So right now it's 8. And so I want to make sure this is 8. And now what I'm going to do is make sure it's all aligned. And you can also go here and distribute, but if I hit that, it's going to distribute our plaid as well. So we're gonna have to undo that, make sure this is grouped, and I'm using Command G, or you could highlight over, and of course, like we did before, group. And now I'm going to align everything. So now I know that this is perfectly in the center between these, and you can go ahead and ungroup if you want to. So now let's make some of those little trees that I had before. You can make trees, you can make ornaments, whatever you want to do. So we're going to go out, we're going to grab another square, and I want it to be the exact same size, even though we're probably going to change it. And I'm just going to drag it down. Now, if you drag this middle thing out by accident, what that's going to do is if you go to rotate this, it's going to rotate it around that axis. So just if that ever happens, it's because this is not in the right spot. So you want that right in the center. And now I can resize it. I just wanted it to be perfect. And let's say you want to make a tree. So I have this one here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. You still have that snapping on, and that's what you want. You're going to duplicate. Okay, and then you can drag, and it's going to let you do, it says right there, line midpoint. Duplicate, midpoint. Now you can grab these, duplicate, come down. And this one, you're going to want to keep it in the midpoint here. And then you only need one in the midpoint. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing for as many layers as you want. Just make sure you're doing the midpoint to corner, and then you're just going to add one. There we go. So now I can highlight over everything. If I did not connect these, again, just like with these up here, it's going to send individual squares. We obviously don't want that. So highlight over everything, path, union. Now we have one object, and you'll see all the nodes. Think of nodes as points of where your Cricut's going to cut, okay? Now we just need to add in one more square. And you can use this one up top kind of as a guide. And then we can change it to brown to change the color. You're going to go right down here to change your color. And there's our little tree. So now you can highlight over this. I would group this as a tree. And then you can duplicate the whole thing. There you go. So now we can duplicate, move it out. Right. And if you have snapping on, you might have it where it's really hard to place it all even, and I'll show you what we can do. So I have it all here. I'm going to highlight over my ho ho ho. I'm going to align to center horizontally, and that's just aligning to the page. You can change it here to first selected, last selected, because we can move it. And then what I'm going to do is make sure it's distributed evenly. And now I'm just going to manually move them down. You can group this again, and I'll show you how those subgroups look in Design Space in 1 second. And then we can duplicate, and we can evenly distribute. So I just want to make sure this is grouped, and now we can grab everything and distribute evenly. So make sure everything's lined up, and there we have our trees. And we have our letters, and now you can add on whatever else you'd like. So if you wanted to make a little star to go in between, again, you're going to make a square. You can change the color. All right, duplicate, and then build out your little star or whatever you want it to be. Cross, a plus sign. I feel like doing a star might be a little bit hard, but not impossible. I would do it like this. So it's like in the middle. And I'm just using squares for this. That's amazing. So you just want to make sure it's always in that midpoint and that everything looks even. And then when I zoom out, right, then you go up to path and union. And there you have like a little circle or a little square, whatever you want to call it. Star. And then you would just duplicate and spread these out as well. So I have 3 of them. Path, union. They are so uneven. I just realized. I'm going to change it to last selected. There we go. And now we can go path, union, and then we can make these into the middle. Duplicate and put them in the middle here as well. And you can also center them this way So that looks nice and even. And there you have this Ugly Sweater SVG file made with just squares, and it looks great. So now let's hit save again. And then if you want to group anything, you can definitely group things, but I'm going to go into Cricut. Let's delete this again. And now let's upload our full file. And you can see how everything's grouped on the side. Okay. Here's all your trees. All your trees. Okay. And then you can hit make. Now here's the thing with the trees is we didn't weld those. So if you wanted to go back or union them, you can leave them like that if you want people to be able to move them around. Or we can go back into Inkscape. So I would go back and I would ungroup here and ungroup here. And you can go through, click on all the green, path, union, again, all the green, path, union. If it's a color that's just by itself, you can do select the same fill and stroke and you can union those, or you can just highlight over these and then path, union, path, union. And I like to work where a lot of my stuff is pre-unioned before I send it over to Cricut, because I feel like it's just so much easier to work with rather than people trying to union everything themselves or weld or attach everything themselves. So now I'm uploading the final one again. Here it is. I'm going to ungroup and let's go through and see. So we have these individual, these, your trees, your stubs. There's your ho, ho, ho. Okay, and when I go to hit make, here everything is. And like you can always move things around. So like for example, this one can be moved here if you want it to save yourself some space. Same as here. But if you want to have that spacing so that it's perfect, you can also just leave it the way it is. And that is how you would make an ugly Christmas sweater SVG file only using the square in Inkscape. Thank you so much for joining me as we made our SVG file. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for new crafty videos, and share this with one of your crafty friends who is trying to learn how to make their own SVG files. I will see you soon in my craft room, and stay crafty.